A shocking loss. Hollywood is mourning the loss of Hayden Panettiere. At just 36 years old, the actress known for some of television and film's most memorable roles has died. Her representative confirmed the news to ABC News on August 16th, sharing the heartbreaking statement that Hayden was an incredible light and a force of nature who brought immeasurable love and joy to the people around her, and to the millions who watched her on screen. Her cause of death was not shared. But behind the fame, the awards, and the unforgettable characters was a woman who had spent much of her life in the spotlight, while privately facing struggles, grief, and the difficult process of confronting her own past. This is the story of Hayden Panettiere's career, her struggles, and the experiences she openly shared with the world. From child star to household name, Hayden Panettiere began her career in the spotlight at a very young age. Like many child stars, she grew up in an industry where performing became part of her life early on. But over time, she transformed from a young performer into a household name. Her major breakthrough came with the television series Heroes, where she played cheerleader Claire Bennett from 2006 to 2010. The role brought her widespread recognition and made her one of the familiar faces of television during that era. Claire Bennett was a character audiences quickly connected with, and Hayden's performance helped establish her as a major young star. But Heroes was only one part of her career. Hayden continued taking on different roles, and eventually became a major part of another successful television drama. The success of Nashville. Hayden later starred as Juliet Barnes on the drama Nashville, opposite Connie Britton. The role gave her another opportunity to show a different side of her acting abilities, portraying a character whose life and emotions unfolded through the drama of the series. Her performance was recognized by the industry, earning her 2 Golden Globe nominations. For an actress who had already spent years working in entertainment, Nashville became another important chapter in her career. And while television brought her some of her biggest successes, Hayden also made her mark on the big screen. Her film career. Hayden Panettiere appeared in a number of films throughout her career. Her credits included Remember the Titans, Raising Helen, and Scream 4, among others. These roles added another dimension to a career that had already included major television success. From childhood appearances to starring roles, Hayden had spent decades building a career in front of audiences. But behind that public career was a very different personal journey, one she would eventually become increasingly open about. The struggles she spoke about openly. Throughout the years, Hayden was candid about some of the struggles she faced. She spoke publicly about her experiences with alcohol, opioids, and postpartum depression following the birth of her daughter, Kaya, with her ex-fiancé Vladimir Klitschko in 2014. These were deeply personal experiences, but Hayden chose to speak about them rather than keep them completely hidden. Her willingness to discuss those struggles became part of a much larger conversation about what happens when someone grows up under constant public attention. And in 2026, following the release of her memoir This Is Me, A Reckoning, Hayden opened up even more about her past. Facing her past. Back in May, Hayden spoke with E! News following the release of her memoir. She discussed what it was like to confront her past, and how she had learned to protect herself after growing up in an industry where, according to her, she had been conditioned to always comply. For Hayden, that experience began at a very young age. She described feeling as though she had been groomed to be a soldier. Her mindset was focused on doing exactly what was expected of her, hitting the mark, getting her lines right, crying when required, performing difficult stunts when asked, and repeating those things as many times as necessary. She explained that she was taught not to question those demands. That mentality became such an important part of her childhood and career that she felt it was something she needed to talk about openly. Her words revealed how deeply her early experiences in the entertainment industry had shaped the person she became. The loss of her brother. But Hayden's journey was not only about the challenges of growing up in Hollywood. She also experienced devastating personal loss. In 2023, Hayden's youngest brother, Jansen, died. For Hayden, that loss carried an especially painful kind of grief. As the older sibling, she spoke about feeling guilty and questioning whether she had somehow failed in her role as a sister. She described being riddled with guilt and feeling as though she had not done her job. What made that grief even more complicated was the nature of what had taken her brother. Hayden explained that it was something she felt she, of all people, should have understood. But grief often leaves people searching for answers that simply do not exist. And as she acknowledged, there were things she could not have predicted. Learning the limits of what we can control. During that conversation, Hayden also reflected on something painful but difficult to accept. Sometimes, you cannot help someone who does not want to help themselves. It is a sad fact, but one she had come to understand through her own experiences. Her words showed the complicated emotions that can follow loss: love, guilt, helplessness, and the realization that even when you desperately want to save someone, there are limits to what another person can do. That understanding became another part of Hayden's story as she continued confronting her past and trying to protect herself. A life remembered. Hayden Panettiere's career began when she was a child, and for decades, audiences watched her grow up on screen. They knew her as Claire Bennett from Heroes. They watched her take on the role of Juliet Barnes in Nashville. They saw her in films including Remember the Titans, Raising Helen, and Scream 4. But her story was about more than the characters she played. It was also about a woman who openly acknowledged her struggles, confronted painful memories, and spoke about grief and loss. Her memoir gave her another opportunity to look back at the experiences that shaped her, and to speak about learning how to protect herself after years of being conditioned to comply. And perhaps that is one of the most important parts of the story she leaves behind. Remembering Hayden Panettiere's death marks the loss of an actress who spent most of her life in the public eye. She brought characters to life for millions of viewers, but she also allowed audiences to see parts of the person behind those characters, the struggles, the grief, and the difficult process of facing her own past. Her cause of death has not been shared. What remains are the roles she played, the memories she created, and the words she chose to share about her life. Hollywood may remember Hayden Panettiere as a talented actress and familiar face. But beyond the screen, her story was also one of vulnerability, resilience, and the complicated realities of growing up in the spotlight. At only 36, her passing leaves behind a career that touched millions, and a life that, despite its struggles, she chose to speak about honestly. May Hayden Panettiere be remembered for the light, love, and joy her representative said she brought to those who knew her and to the millions who watched her on screen.